Bhava Dedamu Kopi Vangmi Jadamatirapi Jantur Jayate Pratyamoviki Sakala Vachana Cheto Devata Bharati Sa Mama Vajasvi Sattam Sanidhim Manasesha. Professor Ramanna, Dr. Mrs. Ansuya Devi, several of my friends who have gathered here, to all of you, a good evening. Today happens to be Guru Purnima, where we remember and honor our teachers. For this place, and as relevant to my personal self in a very deep sense, I have to first remember and salute Professor H. Narasimhaya, without whose sponsorship I would not have been here today. He sponsored my education when I needed it most. He gave me a job when it was due to me. And hence I got connected, associated with this institute, with this college, in a much deeper way than what I could possibly describe in words. There are other teachers who have shaped, like all of you, who have been shaped by teachers. And this is the time to remember them. There is at least a day on which we see that in a very traditional way we respect our teachers who have made our lives what it is. I have chosen today for the title, Beauty is the middle name of a glass. The word middle name means there's some very special quality of them. Anything. If somebody say honesty is his middle name, it means he's an extremely honest gentleman. That's what we mean by saying that. So here, beauty is the middle name of glass means there's nothing more beautiful than glass. That is the idea that I would like to convey to you. It's a medium that is extraordinary. It's not with the easel and the painting brush that you can do that one where you have a lot of time. There isn't much time when a glass blowing is taking place. And he has to do, the glass blower who brings art to the stage, will have to do that one all in under 30 seconds. Because at a temperature which is about 2000 degrees Fahrenheit, he pulls out and does it. And as I go along, I wish to describe that one to you. I will not take more time than is really allotted to me. And I hope you will bear with me. And when you feel like stopping me, kindly raise your hand. That is sufficient for me. And I propose that I have been giving talk at Science Forum for a very long time. And I hope that talking on this subject which I have practiced for a very long time, namely glass science, I propose that this should be my last contribution as a talk at the National College Science Forum. And there are many youngsters today who are very bright, who are very accomplished, and who are all from here, and who have some of the other association with National College, and who love this institution, and probably will come and give talks in future. The first slide in this one, can I take these lights? Because this is for your benefit. It is your benefit. That if I took off the lights, you will see that one in a much, you can see that one in a much better way now. What would you think that these materials are here? This is actually Chihuli's garden and glass at Seattle. This is the place which we have built. Everything inside here, these funds included, and these staffs which are standing there over there, they are all made of glass. It's a mix of glass and plants where you cannot distinguish between them. He has built these huge things which go up to about 40 to 50 feet in several places. In the next one, you can see what Chihuli has been able to achieve. This is what is known as Saffron Tower, which is in the Young's Museum in San Francisco, which is 30 feet by 5 feet by 5 feet. Here is another thing, a beautiful creation that he has done it all in glass. These are glasses which, huge structures which are glass. And this is at the Justin in Omaha, and has an awesome Chihuli sculpture that definitely made the impact on children who go there, because children go to this exhibition. Third one is even more. Equatorial Tower. This is a 55 feet tall one. It has been built like that. You go there and see the clean, clear, and with a distinct color of its own. These huge big ones which have been built by Chihuli. It's an overwhelming size. In the next one you see the same person who has built this bridge which is a 500 feet with the top of that one covered this way and sides are covered with these beautiful glass things which he has done. That rash of color and the flowers which he has made there. the floating things that you can see as if they're just coming out of that one, and the top filled with what has been done by him. And on the bridge, the tall structures of glass which are standing there are extraordinary. There's a panorama of El Tiruli glass at Tacoma, which is his birthplace. It is a 500 feet bridge across the whole road, which is being sort of built over there. You see that? A pedestrian bridge linking the waterfront area on one side in Tacoma and another part of the town. Monumental testament to the vision of Tiruli. In the next one, you can see the same Tiruli who has been able to make this one part, the Victoria and Albert Museum in England. In fact, it was opened last year with something which I could have collected any number of them to show. In fact, one of them I had shown in the Indian Institute of Science some time ago. You can see this chandelier which is coming down, which is about 30 feet from there. Human sizes can be seen because people here can be seen sitting and watching them. All this one is done in glass. Can there be anything more beautiful than this one? It is simply magnificent. On the right side you can see clear, beautiful glass on which these birds which are sitting there, and Tihuli's putties as they are known as, together with Pina, Signoretta and Lino. He had built this one with Lino Tagliapietra. Tagliapietra is another great sort of sage character in glass blowing and glass art. So glass blowing does not really convey their sense. These are glass artists who have been able to do. This is again in Victoria and Albert Museum. 35 feet high dome chandelier. 35 feet. This is that one. At the entrance of the Victoria and Albert Museum. Next one also I wish to show some things which has been able to do. See this colors as floats. This is one of the characteristics of that one. This is as if something is floating inside water. You can see that one so thin and rich in colors. And they have all been put together to give this appearance. These are known as seafarms. The Chihuli's team engineered very thin glass walls by using ribbed mold. That's what they did. And the Machia series, these Machia means spotted. That's what it is. You can see this Machia series. Huge ones, they are big. And as you can see, this blue is bluest of the blue. You cannot imagine what the color would be unless you see it physically. Something which will inspire. This is deep sapphire Machia with Cardoon and Lipra. This very special technique which this Lipra is something of a slightly different color that will be put on that one. And the developer of this technique. Chihuli has been the inventor of this technique. Chihuli and his team also invented what is called the Lipra. That's what it is. You can see the next one, various other categories of things that Chihuli has been able to do in glass. On the left side is a basket series. And at the bottom is what we call the emerald Persian wall. Persian means something which is elegant, and this one has been known as the Persian. It actually probably derived from the fact that there have been many artists in Persia in the olden days, and glass art also probably was associated with that place. And this millefiori or millefiori is actually 1,000 flowers. That is what it means. You can see various types of flowers which have been made by him by making use of glass. Here are baskets. These baskets, he received his sort of inspiration when he visited Indian villages. American Indian villages where he saw baskets, and that's how he began creating them. Here is something which is Aurora yellow and azure blue Persian set. As I mentioned, these Persian sets are very elegant glass wares which have been made by them. And in this last one of Chihuli, I see this again, this is Chihuli garden which he has created. You can believe that it is a huge building, and in front of that one is yellow. He has made a separate one, called it as rising sun, and this sun is situated in front of that one. Chihuli himself can be seen here working with another gas. You can see that in the huge block of glass they have drawn out from when it is molten at 2000 degrees Fahrenheit, that they have taken it out and they are going and working with that one in the help of another. Here is yet another guy who is working with him. So, this is William Morris, who has been a gaffer with him for a very long time. Gaffer is the chief. It is a traditional name. The traditional name, in advance, I must point it out. Maybe in the next one it would come. At that time I will tell you. Gaffer is the chief of a small glass blowing shop. And under him there will be many people. And he is the chief of that one, means he is the chief artist. And he is there watching that one as to what is going on and given instructions. Chihuli Garden Glass provides a look at the inspiration and influences of J. Chihuli, which is in the Seattle Center. RISD He is actually Rhode Island Rhode Island School of Design. His co-professor Chihuli went on to have one beautiful career. All of them worked with Chihuli in that place. Several of those famous names: Harry Anderson, Jeffrey Beal, Howard Venture, Martin Blunt, Carpenter, Eliot, James Harden, Ronnie Harden, and Lee Towlesky, and various others. He must have had about 50-60 students under him whom he trained in the glass blower. Who is this Chihuli that I am talking about? If in the world today you ask about a person who has done the most contribution for glass art, it would be Chihuli. Chihuli was born in Tacoma, where you saw the bridge which has been built in the northwestern part of the United States, belonging to Washington State. Very early he lost his father. He was educated in Washington, in the Washington University. Then he moved on to acquire another degree. And after having acquired the degree, he moved on to this RISD, Rhode Island School of Design, where he got further training. He received training in various forms of art, but he eventually ended up where he had made the most contributions, namely as a glass artist. He was very inspired by that. Anybody who had an inclination or a desire to become a glass artist would go to the finest places where glass art has been there. Traditionally, this has been Venice. Venice is the center, it is the Varanasi for glass art. People would go there to have a darshan of what is going on there in Venice. It's not exactly in Venice, but by the side of Venice, which is another small island known as Murano. Murano has its own history, because in Venice there have been glass artists, and when Venice was an empire, there was somewhere after the fall of the left, but that is the western part of the Roman Empire fell first, somewhere around 700 AD, it was 700, that's correct, 600, 700 AD. And at that time, Byzantine Empire, that is the eastern half of the Roman Empire, remained intact. Many of the countries in Europe tried to make their own empires at that time. One of such empires was the Venetian Empire. So the Venice became an empire at that time, going all the way with several islands and maritime activities. They went even up to Crete and into what we call as Phoenician places on the right side, on the eastern rim of Mediterranean. I'll show you a map at a later stage. But in this one, I tried to bring another artist by name of Lino Tagliopietra. This picture will come later, but here is a lady whose art work has been in the same class, at least in this award-winning production of a glass art. You can see all of these ones. Can you ever imagine this very beautiful thing to be done by one artist sitting there and pulling the glass and putting various colors to that one? Similarly, this lady developed a technique. This is Toots Zinsky. Toots Zinsky is an American. He came from the Mainz, from the eastern parts of the United States. She is a graduate. She wanted to learn about this one. Zinsky learned about a technique which she herself mastered later. How to give glass colors. What she did was a very, very special technique that she developed. She did that one by having fibers, colored glass fibers, which she put together, remelted that one, and made these feathers. You can see sort of colors which just emanate that. It's sort of imaginative way of doing something which is so artistic. The other two who are exhibited here, the center is actually Dante Marioni, about whom I don't used to talk. He actually came from the very place where glasses are made, namely Venice. He was of Venetian origin, and he settled down in the United States. The third one is Lino Tagliopietra. I was talking here about Chihuli. Chihuli was actually born in the United States in 1941, just about a year younger than me. I would have met him if he had come to regular glass science universities, but I had no occasion to meet him at all. He grew there in 1969. This is where RISD was, where he started a glass school. Later on, he moved to the place where he came from, namely Washington State, where he started a glass school known as Pilchuco Glass School. One of the most famous of the 4 schools of glass art in the United States. He has probably won all the awards that one could ever think of. The greatest of his exhibitions has been one that took place In Venice itself, he said Tivoli over Venice. Venice, you should remember, is an island, which is a small island. There are no cars there. You don't get a car to move in that island. If you opened your house, if you open our houses anywhere, you would go to a road. But there, you would go into a canal. Because it is a place where you have something like 150 canals and about 600 bridges. That's what it is. 500 bridges and 150 canals. That's what it is. And there, people would be moving only in little boats going all over there. Houses have been built on stilts. They are wooden stilts which are sort of, put into the earth under the sea, in the seabed. It's very shallow seabeds. There have been houses which are 600 years old. They have not fallen apart. And that is because wood doesn't really decay when it is inside, particularly saline water. There is no oxygen for that one. It doesn't decay. And therefore these houses are all there. Most of the houses are only 3-story. The ground floor for carrying on the business. The second floor meant for guests. The third floor which they have, 0, 1, not 0, 1, 2, it is 1, 2, 3 that I am saying. The third one, they normally leave and they are very happy with that. This is the most beautiful town. The same is the story with Murano. When it was an empire, it had glass artists in great numbers. They were extremely important because it meant business for them. They were exporting glass. So first thing that they did was to prevent artists from going out of Venice. How would they do that one? In the little island of Murano, they put all of them there. They gave national honors to them. Padma-Bhushan, Padma-Shri, what have you. So they were all class artists were given that one. And girls from rich families and noble families got married to these very respected glass artists in Murano. And they also encouraged them to go and stay there because there were several fire accidents because you are making glass, but without fire you can't do. And the houses would catch fire because they were all wooden. And therefore they had to put them in an island. They also saw to it that they never moved out of Murano. In spite of that, when people would take a boat and go over in some way, cross over to France, to Switzerland, and to other places. Indeed, glass art grew in France and reached over to Britain only through that kind of a thing. And British did the worst thing, which they did in India also. Namely, if a glass artist were to leave their country, they would cut off their hands. There is no way you could grow a glass if you were to lose your hand. That is the way, very severe punishment for that. Glass art was preserved this way. It was handed down from father to son. In a glass maestro was always a son of another maestro. That particular job, that title, would never be given to anybody else. Till such people as Tivoli came on the scene. That was much, much later, as you can see. I am talking about when Venice was its highest, this one, namely around maybe up to about 1000. It was before, definitely before the fall of the Byzantine Empire, but that was around 1000 or so. That 800 to 1000 AD, that you had this empire of Venice, which was at the height of its glory. In fact, glass got its name, namely for the artistic glass that came out of Venice. It was Façon di Venice, they would call it. Façon di Venice means something of class. Light glass, which extraordinary quality, and you could feel the music of that one by the tinkling noise of that one, and it had beauty in that. That's what it was. And Tivoli went there to demonstrate how good he is. He had Tivoli over Venice because over these canals at 14 places he put chandeliers. Chandeliers which were about 40 feet hanging down on those canals. And there was celebration all over Venice. And that is how he celebrated his achievements in glass art. He did the same thing in Israel. That was at the Tower of David and at other places in Jerusalem, light over Jerusalem as he called that one. He had set up his exhibition of huge chandeliers and huge structures that he built out of the glass. He had his team go all over the world. He had literally hundreds of gaffers working with him during the last 1.5 decades or 2 decades. He is active even now. And in fact, he has got the highest award, which is set up by Germany for any glass artist of that kind. He is also a Humboldt Fellow, and the Humboldt Foundation has this one. He has several doctorates awarded to him, and he is held in highest honor. There is no private rich organization in the United States which doesn't have a piece of chihuly. He must have done that. And that's the way it is. And that is all about the chihuly. I came to this lady, Zinsky, who was also inspired by chihuly. She did most of the things, and her achievement has been really to have fibers out of which she could make, eventually melt that one and get into shape in order to make such beautiful things. In the next one I show what this great man has been. Can you see his work? Can you contemplate your sight a little onto these things? The neomia, the Saturna, ring within ring. And here is something which looks like a top with half a dozen colors which are there. Pure and inspiring colors in that one. This one is another Saturn. These are all things which were done by Taglio Pietra. Taglio Pietra was a student of Savuso, another great man in Venetian glass science, glass art. And he was born in 1934, about 6 years earlier, 7 years earlier than Chihuly, who became his student. Actually, Chihuly went to meet Taglio Pietra and learn how to make glass of the particular quality and color in order to be able to bring his imagination to work in glass. That's what it was. So he was a great teacher himself. Archaeologist Taglio Pietra was just about 11 years when he went as an apprentice with Sergurso. By 21 he was a maestro. Because his father was also a maestro, he came from the glass blowing families. He became a maestro. Maestro means master, really that's what it is. And he was a master of glass blowing by 21. There is no place, no country, no glass artist groups which has not held Taglio Pietra in the highest place of honor. That is in this. He has traveled all over. He has inspired people to do things. And here you can see this simple display of colors in this one. I don't know if you can appreciate from that one. In smaller ones you can see this. Many of them are simply beautiful ones. And can anybody imagine capturing beauty of this kind? And the imagination brought to bear in making these vessels so you could see. One of them is known as Mandira, some such thing which he has done. And that also, I haven't given the names here. These are all creations of Taglio Pietra. I probably haven't put the other one. Here is Taglio Pietra, who sort of visited many glass schools, held conferences, taught people. He himself actually met a person in a conference that goes on every year or every alternate year in Murano. He was inspired by a person known as Capia, who told him, look, if you really want to work in glass art, you need to take every piece of glass art, any piece of glass that you have come across, somebody which has done a glass object, you must begin to think about that as a piece of art. Then only you will begin to see. Otherwise, you have your eyes open, but you don't get out of that one anything at all. What a statement. In fact, probably in every discipline that we know, unless we are able to sit and see, it's like reading a sentence or reading poetry. Unless you read between the lines probably, you must learn to read the silence between lines. Then only we will understand what poetry would really mean. I like that one. That was Taglio Pietra, the high priest of glass art. When we talk about glass art, how do they do? Here is a gaffer. Gaffer has a certain chair with long arms. It's all very fixed for now more than 1,500 years or 2,000 years, right from the times of Romans. So this particular kind of a workshop and a structure, and it has been preserved in most places, at least in Murano. You can have a long-armed chair, and always the glass blower, the chief glass blower known as a master glass blower sits and he is known as gaffer. And gaffer has at the lowest level, this is the next to the lowest. Namely, he brings that one, this is known as an iron. This iron rod is actually a pipe. You insert that one, gather the molten glass which is known as metal. So you pick up the metal at the end of the gathering rod, take it out, and you do first of all, this one, the extra which flows out, and then you roll it on an iron table known as a marboring table. So it is known as, the fellow who does that one is known as a marborer. And after the marker has done that one, he will be giving it to the hands of the gaffer who is going to shape, sort of shape that one. There is yet another fellow who takes these objects and puts it into a furnace where it is going to sort of, you reheat that one so that all the extra stresses which are present there are completely relieved. This relaxation process takes place when it is put inside a special oven known as a leher. So a leher means that's what it meant by a leher. In the next one I will show you how they pull it out of this one. This is known as a glory hole. That is a huge furnace inside which there is this high temperature in which the glass is melted by making use of the charge. Charge is actually a mixture of the materials that go into that one, namely sand, sodium carbonate, sometimes a little of the potassium carbonate, then the calcium carbonate if you wanted to introduce calcium into that one. And of course these are finally they become ashes along with silica. This is simply ash and sand. That's what it is. So if you say it is sand and ash and that is glass which eventually becomes the glass. And that is melted there and pulled out by somebody who takes it out, as I mentioned. He takes it out and then marbles that one and gives it to the hands of the gaffer who is going to work in that one by blowing this one. I have shown the picture of a person who is really blowing. You would have to see that one in the olden days, there used to be people who come in groups to do, Marpe Munji, the kind of Kasta, Valagaram Kasta. Adhan Shruti itkondirono birtida. Anu Matish Gata Markondo. In a constant rate, he would let out the wind. So that it gives the Shruti for this fellow. And that fellow would have, a gaffer would have really the same kind of a swelling of the chins on his face. Because he has to really force the air through that one. And that's what happens with these people. You can see that eventually the shape that is given to the material that he takes out and makes it into an object is only limited by the imagination of the gaffer. It's not so much the physical capacity, it is the imagination of the gaffer who gives color, who gives shape, and all this takes place, as I mentioned earlier itself, in just about half a minute. Because beyond that one, the material doesn't allow him to do anything because it becomes hard. Glass becomes hard. Within that one, he has to give the shape for that one. Within that one, he has to give this shape not by any other physical instrument, but it is through his lungs. And within that one, he has to see what he is trying to do and give shape to that one. Instruments that he uses are very ordinary. A tongs-like thing. A cutting tool, which is like a scissor, it is actually a scissor. Or he may press that one. He may use only very, very ordinary things because at that point in that high temperature, it is so malleable, it is so shapeable, it is so pullable, it is everything. It is like a liquid which behaves like a solid. That's what glass is all about. And here you can see the pure colors, for example, translucent red. Here is the hunter green. These are all liquid. And that lip, providing the lip itself is a big technique which has now been mastered by people like Tigul. There is another artist, Tony Patti. Tony Patti is an American who meets everybody and he is really effervescent in terms of what he talks about and does. And you can see him. He has used these canes. Glass color is often given by making use of canes of this kind. Canes means a colored glass rod which you have and which has been twisted like this and kept there. If you wanted to give color, you can take this one in order to produce a lip, or you can introduce that one in order to give various shapes. And you can see here blue, white and yellow cane which has been used for this work and has been able to do this. Such beautiful things, big things he has been able to do. Tony Patti is another important artist. A person who is a graduate from the RISD and has again been very well known in terms of his contribution. In the next one I show glass art in Australia. This Grant Donaldson has actually been a farmer, a graduate farmer, who has been advanced at the type of farming that he was doing. But his wife, Elisine, that's her name, not Donaldson, her name is, I think, not Grant, some other kind of name or family name, has been a glass blower. So he had to assist her because she might run away in the United States or any other Western country. So the husband didn't behave. And he has like in Kerala, they keep the footwear outside kind of thing. Next day it is gone. Therefore, he had to be careful and spend between agriculture and glass blowing some time. Between 90 and 94, he did learn how the glass blowing. And he became much more famous. His wife, Alice, he did a much better job. And he loved everywhere making these very beautiful things, which is not very tall, about 2 feet, 3 feet kind of thing. And you can see here, this one is a 240 cent 24, that is, that's not a very big thing, 24 centimeters is not a very great thing. And these are all the fibers like thing, which if you keep it inside a flower pot, it looks like as if it's a flower which is coming out of that one. And this kind of thing he has done. In Japan, I have chosen some people very representative because there must be a list of at least about 1,000 glass artists today up till now. Because there is a glass artists conference itself which takes place. But I have picked a few from various countries. And here is someone known as Nangu, who comes from the Nangu, who comes from Japan. And this one he has, like Japanese, small things and some very beautiful things are their objective. He makes a very special, what we call as gundigal. I also for the share to this one. He makes that kind of, he focuses on crafting tombo damas, meaning dragonfly ball, for both traditional Japanese clothes and Western clothes alike, so that it is mixed to them. And its appearance is held in very high respect by people who buy them or who see them. In former USSR also there have been glass artists. And here is also something which is very representative of the, in most of these things, art is such that you don't know what's going on in your mind. You have to bring that one forth. Whether it represents people, their taste, their culture, their beginnings in somewhere, we don't know. But they are very unique in what they have been able to do. Here is a ruby glass picture made in USSR. And we don't know the author because from the USSR, you really don't have names of these glass artists. Who makes them is very unclear in the literature. Maybe if we go there, we may be able to get it. But that is how it has been going on in the USSR as well. Comes here, Lady Anna Tarts, a lady who does these things. She is of Bohemian origin. She is a graduate. She came to Amsterdam, where she has her, this one. She hires other people in order to do things in her. She herself is a gaffer of great repute. She has done these very beautiful things, as you can see. They are timeless. And in terms of the quality there, you can see these bubbles. They are double bubbles as they call them. And these bubble structure. They are very heavy, sometimes about 20 kg, things like that. So she can't possibly handle. She has the strong fellows. She works with 3 regular glass blowers and they are well paid because they will go away. And there have been several attempts to do them away. Glass blowing is not easy because double bubble was can be 10 kilograms or even more. That's what it is. But she has been a master of the Bohemian technique. Bohemia in those olden days, when Venice was a big empire, there have been artists who moved from Venice and established their own concerns in other countries like Bohemia. And that's what it is in this one. This lady is extraordinary. She's also a graduate, Susan Gart. She came to RISD. She has worked practically in all glass schools that one could think of. She wanted to learn about that one, went over to Europe. She was in Venice. She worked with Ramanna, another artist there, and came back. She has traveled all over the world. Probably in Nepal or in Tibet, she learned, she was influenced very largely by Buddhistic philosophy. She is also interested in philosophy, in the ancient pagan art, and she has done many, many things as you can see here. This is a red copper Buddha. She is a cast glass worker. And cast glass, you already make an object of a particular kind, then pour molten glass onto that one in a cast and develop that artistic piece. And she is a cast glass artist. Here is the goddess green Buddha. She has been able to do that too. Here is a sign of moon in which she has introduced various other things which look simply beautiful. That's what it is. She herself has a very penetrating look, as you could see. Able to handle a large number of things. And probably that's how her mind is very close to any philosophical thought, probably. And she has been able to observe that one and translate that one in some way into material, into the pieces of art that she produces eventually. There's another artist in the United States. I have an artist from India, Atul Bakshi. Atul Bakshi works in Delhi. And probably he's a he is presently of Christian faith. He has done large number of cast glass things by making use of this one. So you can see the Harappan bull here. This is 12 inches by 11 inches by 3 inches. But something like 14 inches, 14 inches, 3 inches, 3 inches thick. And this one is not a light thing. It has to be handled very carefully. He has done many objects of this kind. And he works from Delhi. He says, I am a slave of glass. That is his statement. He's so wedded to making glass objects that he's totally dedicated to that one. He has had exhibitions. He has made float-like, figures. He had an exhibition outside of this country, and it has been prized all over the world because it looks like as if they are all leaves or lamp-like structures where there could be flowers of what was termed by the critic as Itauriya Hugena. That is what was described as the inspiring kind of a thing, which had been by Atul Bakshi. And it comes here, France's own people. After all, if one were to talk about art, you leave French and go to Venice. People would ask that. I mean, even today, if a Britisher or anybody from Europe were to be considered as highly educated and sophisticated, he must have a stamp of approval from France. They will go and learn French. He will then have a dabbling in French in order to be called as a highly educated and sort of as a pass into the higher strata of the society. Then how about glass? Wow, glass art also. There have been extraordinary people. This person is René. It came to be something of a byword for anything that was great in Art Nouveau, because he was the founder of Art Nouveau along with Emile Gallien. They started that. Actually, René Lally was born in a small village, A-Y. How do you say that? In French, there must be many such names. From A, he moved over to Paris because his father came there. His father passed away early. Very much like in the case of the earlier one that I spoke about, Chihuli. Here also, there's a case where his father passed away. His mother had to take care of him. In Chihuli's case also, this is very attached to his mother, who was 80 some time ago when he had brought her in some exhibition, and one could see that photo. And here is Lally, who came from A to Paris, and he went to Torah. He went to the college in Torah, got a degree there, and then he went to the French school, which is known as the College d'Art de Decoratis, and where he got a degree. Again, it's a diploma, it's not a degree. And after having acquired that one, he moved over to England, and then in Sydenham College he had another degree. And with all these, equipped with this one, he came back. And in between, for a livelihood, he had already started being an apprentice in goldsmith's shop and various shops. When he came back, he started his own business, designing new jewelry, not only in glass but in other things. Then he was soon to be hired by no less than Cartier and Beauchamp. They are very, very rich and traditional sellers of anything to do with jewelry. And he began designing for them. He was a rich man, founded a new way of doing that one. All that we mean by saying France is proud of glass blowers, what we call as Art Nouveau. Art Nouveau is characterized by colors of shades, of gentle variations, not only of color, but of the material itself, creating new things. If you remember, there was earlier, for example, between 1350 to roughly 1600, you had a revolution that was taking place, and that was Baroque art developed all over Europe. Baroque means everywhere the buildings would have great creations, great curves which were developed, figurines coming up on that one. And everywhere, in every field, there has been a change. There was Shakespeare, sort of, with his dramas. And there were other poets who were writing in some new style in those days. Michelangelo painting, a city sort of flat on the stilts and painting on the roofs of basilica, and so many beautiful things that were happening in that country, and that all put together. Not only that, but there were in Bohemia things were happening. in anything, in any field at that time. And that was the revolution, there was a renaissance. And the Renaissance period essentially was like that. And after the Renaissance, probably, it was at the turn of the last century, 1900 to 1950, you had many, many things coming up. Some new thoughts, new things that were coming up. And of course, in Renaissance, it was a period when people lost faith in religion. In the sense, they didn't lose faith in God, but they lost faith in the church. That's what happened in the western parts of the empire which collapsed, namely collapse of the Roman Empire. Everything was every small country was becoming independent. There were people who were thinking very, very, very differently. There was also a period which saw the Great Plague, and the rats came actually in the ship from China. And there's bubonic, this one which came, disease, which killed anywhere from 1/3 to 2/3 of the entire population of Europe. That's what happened at the time. The bubonic fever, or that disease, which took a toll of ever so many people in Europe. And that was the time art was also taking shape in the country. And here is the second phase in which Ramanna was able to do that. You can see those gentle things of the dragonfly, which has been done in glass, like impossible to sort of even imagine. He had done many other things, like these gentle curves, which are needed in order to express the figurine of anybody, and this was pasture, which was used as a medal that was given by people. That's what the art was at that time. We come to the next level. It was really impossible to believe this one. These are the Blaszkas. Father and son Blaszkas, Leopold Blaszka, and his son Rudolf Blaszka. Rudolf and these are actually, again, Bohemians. They were there in a village known as, what is that? I will forget the name of it. Turno, that's correct. It was in Turno. It was actually, at that time, it belonged to Germany, so the German Empire. So, the father of Blaszka he was an artist. He was doing various things, including working in glass. It looks like the forefathers were actually from Venice. And therefore, there was this art flowing in his family. It was there, the Venetian bloodline. That is what it was. So he was already doing some things corresponding to that. He would see books and begin to create them in glass. That is what it was. Unfortunately, he lost his wife first and then his father and was completely distraught. He had his son Rudolf. He wanted to bring him up in some good way, in some better way with greater education. So he moved over to Dresden. In order to make a living, he used to take these botany and zoology books and look into them and make those things in glass. And that was an extraordinary thing. People noticed that one. Then there was this royal king, Prince He came, he was a local royal family man. He saw that one and said, look, I'm going to buy these things. Why don't you come to my garden, my real estate, see all the 100 orchids and reproduce them in glass. He did that. Got a lot of money, got a fame also. Then there was this Oldenburg who was the curator of the Natural History Museum in England, who heard about this one and came to see what it was. He was excited. He said, why don't you make models for us of animals? Therefore, he gave a contract. First it was 100 orchids, now it was about 500 pieces of all the small animals that he had known, which was useful for his museum because there was a special section where he wanted to exhibit that one. Came the fame for Blaszkas. When this was seen in the Natural History Museum, George Goodale was a professor at Harvard, thought that, well, I have got what I wanted and was looking for. Namely, in order to teach students of the sea creatures, it was a great difficulty. Because they would take it out and put it in bottles in alcohol, but the second day they would all be like that. There was no way you could show them. And there were all the minor things that were there on their body who cannot be explained to the students at all. And Goodale thought that if I can get them made like this fellow has been able to do, I can give the job to him. In between, the great inspiration for the senior Blaszka was that somebody had advised him to go out of the country for a while in order to recover his poor health. He thought that he would go up to the United States. He was not a man with lacking in means. Therefore, he took a voyage to United States. For his good luck or bad luck, the ship wouldn't move after 3 days because it is somewhere along the seas. It simply stopped there for want of wind. It was not those days when they would have motors to drive them. So they had to be there for 2 weeks on the high seas doing nothing. This person took that one as an opportunity. Was looking at all the sea creatures there. Sea slugs, sea urchins, small, this one. He was looking at the octopus various kinds. Made sketches of them. When he came back from the United States, he began making them. He recovered and he came back. And all these things were put together, made Godel to go and place order for him in his Dresden workshop. Rudolph the Leopard was able to make them with the assistance of his son. Rudolph was only assisting his father. They made all these things. It was sent to the United States. Anyway, in those days also, in the customs, when the samples, when these fine things which had been done appeared in customs they were all pieces of things. There was no way to got broken. So they said, no, this was not the way. So what they did was to find out where to raise the money in order to get this man to the United States. So Godel was able to go to a lady known as Ware. Her name is Mary Ware. She had inherited a lot of property. Her husband was no more. She had a daughter by name Elizabeth. So Elizabeth and Mary Ware were sort of convinced that Godel was making a good case for having these two people brought all the way from Dresden to Harvard to make these things for the Harvard Museum. See, look at how it happens. So he was brought there with a good salary and with permission to do during the nights whatever he wanted. He could do it for private business. But during the daytime he has to work for Harvard and make all those things. He made 4,000 species of all sorts. If any of you have gone to Harvard Museum, you would have seen all those things. You cannot believe that it is a flower of this kind or whatever it is. You can see Lashka made botanical species of this kind. See the flower? This entire thing is made out of glass. At some parts it is painted, where it was very difficult to give color to the glass. The rest of them, they looked as if they didn't know where the difference between nature and the artificial thing, really the border was, it was blood. That is the way that he was able to make materials. Here are the father and son Blaschka, Father Blaschka and son Rudolf Blaschka. Rudolf Blaschka stayed in the United States for much longer. He died, but he didn't train anybody in the art of making them. Nor did his father Leopard. As a result of that one, today you don't have an artist, let alone Chihuli, anybody who can make these things appear as if it is alive. There is no artist of this. You can see what it means in Gaza. Comes the story of Tiffany. He was an American, typical American. His father Tiffany was the one who founded this organization, Tiffany's, which is in New York. Tiffany's son Tiffany, his name, what was that? There's a peculiar first name, Louis something Tiffany. His middle name I forget again. Maybe middle names are being forgotten now. So, middle name I don't know, but Louis Tiffany is what his name was. Louis Tiffany, rich man's son, so he was interested in art. He went all over studying, was a graduate. He graduated from New York Art Academy of Art in New York, and then he got interested in glass. So he went all over the world. He learned the glass art, became a gaffer. He made his vessels, as you can see. He developed a new technique for them to have iridescence. He would simply lower them in silver nitrate and take it out, and that's a reheat that one. And you had this iridescence come up. He was also the first one to use uranium salts to give iridescence. Fantastic art pieces came out of them. He was also an expert in stained glass. He was making windows, he was making various other things, and in the next one I will show you an example of what he has been able to do. Most interesting thing in his life was, there was this archer, what is his name? Chester Arthur, right? He was the president in 1882 of the United States. He was elected president. What he did was, as soon as he was elected, he said, refused to go to White House. He said, it's all in rotten situation. You have to change the entire thing within, whatever is there on the walls, on this one, etc., etc. It has to have a renewed appearance. He said, otherwise I won't move it to the White House. Right? The United States president is a superior king. That's what it is. Therefore, it had to be done. Therefore, they had to have somebody contracted in order to do that one. The contract came to Tiffany, the young Tiffany, because he was an artist. And he changed really the quality of things that were there in White House in those days. But much later, when Roosevelt came there, he removed all those things and said, that is, you have to wear it. So madness is there even among presidents of the United States. That is the take-home point. That's what, so far as I am concerned. Real bad guys, what would have happened to those beautiful windows and things which had been created there? And that was Tiffany. Tiffany did very great contributions to glass art. That's what it was. That brings me back to when was all this? I mentioned several times about Roman history and also about the glasses. It so happens that glass was really born somewhere here in Egypt and in these Phoenician regions. It is said in glass history, probably it is here. You must remember that this Phoenicia is actually right next to that one is Syria on the top and Iraq next to that one. You must know that this is the part which is known as Sumeru, Sumerian civilization. Sumeru is an Indian word. Meru, Sumeru, Hemadri, Ratnasan, Suralaya. Sumerian civilization had all the elements of Indian civilization. You can see that even today, while the region between Euphrates and Tigris happens to be a cradle of civilization as we recognize them, much like Indian civilization here between Ganges and Yamuna and this whole thing, there has been this civilization and people had moved over there. That is because you can see many records. They had developed 12 tables of how to behave. What are the punishments to be given for all sorts of violations? You wouldn't believe how much of that is common with Chanakya's rules, which came much later, with Chandragupta Maurya, which happened to have been much later, around 100 BC, and that's the Chandragupta Maurya period, isn't it? Forgive me if I'm wrong on that one. This we are talking about 3000 BC, when the Sumerian civilization was there. They had this cuneiform writing according to great researchers. And this cuneiform writing started off from there. But anyway, back here, glass was also found on the sands of the Mediterranean. This is this whole Mediterranean as you are seeing. And Roman Empire in 107 or 17 AD was all this one as a matter of fact. Mesopotamia was there. In fact, from Black Sea, this is Black Sea, up to the Caspian Sea, which is over there. Well, I can't see that one here. Caspian Sea, there were, at times, the entire thing was the Roman Empire. The Romans had a way of convincing even those people they won in order to become a part of them. That was the strength in them. They didn't decimate them. They made them part of that one so that they had their own rules to operate in those countries. Gauls who refused to do that one, namely Gaul means this is France. They refused to do that one, even they were convinced. But these German tribes were not. Germans may not wish to be called as tribals, but they were the ones who never accepted anything. They were the ones who were responsible for fall of the Roman Empire, as you can see. Here were the Germans in 476. By 580, left part was completely gone. At some point of time, for administrative reasons, it had been divided into the western half of the Roman Empire and the eastern part of the Roman Empire. And for the eastern part of the Roman Empire, here was the place known as the Byzantine. This was the Byzantine Empire, and that was the place which was renamed as Constantinople, because Constantine was the king of that place. After Constantinople, somewhere much later, that was Turks who overcame the whole thing, and this entire eastern part of what was Roman Empire and later Byzantine Empire was simply taken over, destroyed with Ottoman Turk. And in honor of Turk, all this portion became Turkey. It is not because of any other reason. There are no Turks which are some ethnic region. It's a Turk who came there, occupied that one, and later the people were called as Turks. That's what it was. The reason I am mentioning in this one was somewhere in between, when the western part got destroyed by the Germans, those places were becoming free, as I mentioned to you. And here is Italy, and here is our Trieste. And by the side of Trieste is Venice, and Venice can be seen here. And Venice happens to be a lagoon. A lagoon means there is a piece which rises over there and allows the water to flow in as if it is backwaters. Very much like Malpe and Udupi, and that's what we have. And here you have the Venice and Murano, another island. As I mentioned to you, this is a very beautiful place where when the empire was there, this portion really belonged to them. What was the secret of this one? Why is it necessary? I will go somewhere there and come back. The reason why the secret behind the Murano glass quality has been somewhere here, as you can see. Murano people, when they made their glass, they were very selective in the materials that they were using. They got the sand from two different sources. One is this Adige river, which is going over here, and the other river was Sicina. That is what it is. Only two rivers. The sands of those rivers were pure and very high quality in terms of the silica content of that one. Colorless, very white sand. They used to get that. And they would get various other things. The ash that was necessary for that one were from very special trees. And these trees were growing in this region known as the Levant. Levant region is the Phoenician region. Actually, western part of Syria, you can see that one, present day Lebanon and top of Egypt. They used to grow there. Well, the trees are known as, these Levant soda ash, they are known as Salsola soda or Salsola kali plants. That's what it is. This kali really reminds me of something that should have been the Kali of India. That's what probably the name indicates. And these trees were cut, burned, and that ash used to be there. And that's why the Roman history for glass science seems to be very relevant, as I mentioned. The Roman glass, Rome, when it was an empire, the Roman glass actually started somewhere in 100 BC. And around 50 BC, there was one piece known now as Portland vase, which had been made. This Portland vase has a very special story about it. Portland vase somehow remained with Augustus, and the royalty had that one for a long time. Somewhere around 1600 AD, it came to one colonel who was of Francisco somebody, check. First name is Francisco, no, second name is Francisco somebody, who owned that one, who had come to him. This fellow was an intelligent fellow, and Francisco itself tells that he's a Frenchman. So he sold that one to Barberini family. Barberini family were rich fellows, so they bought it for some money. So they kept it for at least about 150 years from that time. Then they sold it to another person from England, Sir Hamilton. Sir William Hamilton bought that one, and he also had business in his mind. He came back to England and sold it to the Duchess of Portland. Duchess of Portland bought that one from Hamilton, George Hamilton, William Hamilton, and kept that one with herself, and it was a great possession with her. Hence the name Portland. This was known as the vase of Portland. Portland vase, name came from there. This lady kept it with herself, but then put it for sale. Believe it or not, her son bought it in action. So the Duke, the next Duke actually, of Portland, bought that one from his mother who had put it for sale. And that fellow kept it for himself, at least till his great-grandson. The 8th Duke of Portland then saw and found that, look, times are changing, no point in keeping this one. It's a great piece of art. Let us give it to the Victoria and Albert Museum, which is British Museum. So he came to British Museum to be decorated in room number 70. If anybody has gone to British Museum, they have different rooms for different things. And this Portland vase was kept there. Unfortunately for them, there was, I mentioned about William Hamilton who were there, and here was a William Lloyd, who was a drunkard, dropout from Cambridge, had changed his name, came to that place in the museum and saw to it that he really banged against that one, and the vase went up. Vase went up and broke into several pieces. What do you do with that vase? So eventually the vase was put together by then a reconstructionist who was of great fame by the name Doubleday. So Doubleday was able to put them all together. He made the vase. He used the right kind of adhesive for putting them together. In those days adhesives were not of great. He is not polymer age yet. You remember that one. So he put them together with some glue and he made that one. But he recognized that there were still 37 small pieces which were lying there. He didn't know where to put them. So where they had been reconstructed. Where it was put back, 37 pieces. See, that is where hats off to the British. It was never thrown up. ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಆಗಿದ್ರೆ ನಾಳೆ ಬೆಳಗ್ಗೆ ಬಂದೆಲ್ಲ ಗುಡಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗ್ತಾನೆ, ನಾವೇನು ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಬಾಯಿಂದ ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದು ಗುಡಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗೋದು. 37 pieces were put in 37 little boxes and then put together, and it was there. For the next 120 years, there must have been several curators who have changed in between. And finally, the last curator who came there asked, what are these things, I said, these 37 pieces? Well, they came from that one because there was a record. Then he had this Nigel Smith and Susan Smith and Nigel is first name and Susan is the name of the lady. These two reconstructionists were hired in order to see what can be done. Anyway, you had improved microscopes, you had improved design, you had improved adhesives which are available, namely, what do we call this adhesive, araldite. Araldite can put together any two things except broken marks. That's what their advertisement for. Once upon a time, you can put together. And they were able to put it all together, except for some dust. Nothing else was there. And it was reconstructed. And that is the story of this vase which now adorns the museum. You must remember, this is 2015 years old, and it is absolutely wood glass, made by a technique known as cameo. In the cameo technique, where you have two different types of glasses, two different colors, you take a bubble of the glass, put it into a white glass, blow them together. When you blow them together, you have an external coating. Then, like a person who works with jewelry, you are going to cut that one and make these figurines. There are 7 male figurines on that one, 7 human figurines on that one. And there is this tree and various other things. There are, when you don't have any other thing, they begin interpreting all these things. There have been many interpretations. I think I will go fast hereafter. And here is Salviati, a person who had a great pride. Because Salviati was an Italian, had a great pride in Venice and Venetian glasses. He wanted to revive the art of Venice, art of glass making in Venice. Because through these revolutions, through the Renaissance, through other occupations, because what happened was, after it was an empire, the empire fell and it was taken over by Napoleon. And then Napoleon passed it on to Austria. It was an Austrian empire when several things were happening. Where was art? Murano people had gone away because nobody was encouraging that one. Nobody was giving titles for them. Therefore, it really fell. Salviati wanted to do that. Salviati was himself a lawyer. And he took the help of an archaeologist in A.P. Layard. I remember this one because I used that name several times. A.P. Layard was a diplomat and also an archaeologist. So this British diplomat and archaeologist helped Salviati in bringing business. So they hired several gaffers to revive the Venetian art of glassmaking. You can see what he has been able to create. 19th century, this one. Can you match these pieces, this beauty? It's simply incredible. Simply incredible. It was all done by the Salviati's group who recreated that. And I mentioned about this one already. And you can see one or two things in another couple of slides. You must know that they have developed this art in some fantastic way. Here is what gets the color. One in transmission and one in reflection, which can be very different. And this kind of a thing is what is known as a Lycurgus cup. This is from the Roman times that it had been made. Maybe somewhere around 100-150 AD or such thing. And as you can see, they used, in order to get these very beautiful colors, gold nanoparticles. How did they make gold nanoparticles? There was no nanoparticles known to us in those times. They used gold chloride. They added that. And sometimes they would add stannous chloride. That was also present with them. We had these chemicals. We didn't know how they were able to do that one. And, Lycurgus cup, who apparently had been using this one such a long time ago. Only silver, the gold salt, and they knew what that one. Gold, incidentally, has been known to mankind for much longer than any other metal. This gold is a native metal. They were able to use it. You can see that in Mahabharata times to previous times where references to gold have been there. In Sanskrit, there are 20 names for gold. You would be surprised with that one. And that's the kind of thing. Therefore, they knew where it would dissolve, how to do that, how to put it. And here are the people who had already been using that. I mentioned about the celebrated schools. Just mentioned about them. This is the Haystack Mountain School of Crafts, which is another great school, which is present in Maine, in the northeastern portion of that. And here is the Pinchuk School, which is the northwestern top, Pacific Northwest. Penland School of Crafts, and this is in North Carolina, Blue Ridge Mountains. And Pittsburgh Glass Center, Pittsburgh, everybody knows that. These are the four important schools, but there are some minor schools everywhere. In the world, there are many, many other places. Most of them are not glass schools. They are places for design, studies of design and art. And therefore, they also have a section for learning glass blowing and things like that. But now, times have changed. Many things have changed. You don't have people, glass blowers sitting like that. Glass is now the business of big industries. First such move was actually by Michael Owens, who began making bottles. Bottles, you should know, for those who don't know the economics of glass, largest customer for glass in the world are people who sell beer and various other drinks and scents, various scents. They are the ones who pay a lot of money for glass, and that's one to the customer. So here is glass. Glass was needed. So a machine was designed by Michael Owens, who became historically significant inventors. In that list, you could see that one. And he became one of the first ones to transform everything into large things. The largest conversion has been to Sir Pilkington, Lester Pilkington. He designed a method by which you could take flat glass everywhere. You have a glass door here. You have glass covering any number of buildings today in Bangalore. Glass use has been growing at about 150 to 175% every year after year. That's the way it is. And we are very foolish as a day. You keep glass, you make a greenhouse, you heat that one, use air conditioner to cool that. That's our intelligence. That is how we have been wasting our power here everywhere. If you didn't have that one, yes, it would be cool enough. But you don't do that. Anyway, this glass, making this flat glass was a big, difficult. First they came up with rollers, but then the width that you could make out of that one, and the evenness of the top and bottom was questionable. It would have refractive index which would vary all over. And you see from here, the outside fellow would look taller or smaller, depending upon how the refractive index varies. And here is Alistair Pilkington. What he did was to take a molten pool of tin, into which you would have the glass simply flow onto the top of that one. Tin is denser, higher specific gravity, doesn't mix with the glass. Therefore, you have a liquid surface on which you have the molten glass coming there, and the liquid would find its own level on the top, and you have absolutely parallel faces which are optically finished, smooth. That's what it was. And that's how it was done. And this is the modern glass. One or two stories which would be of relevance when we are talking about glass in the modern place, which has its own place. Here is the 200-inch telescope that was made for Mount Palomar to be erected in the United States on the west coast in California, Mount Palomar. How did they do that one? And of course, Halley came and said, look, if we were to do a bigger telescope, we will be able to see far greater distances out into the space. Therefore, there was money coming from it. First, Carnegie Foundation had given money for the 60-inch and 100-inch telescope. And now to the 200-inch telescope for which they had to find money. So they had what is this foundation? Not Ford, which is the other foundation, is it? No. The foundation which gives the scholarships and all that. No, American foundation, which is like Ford. Rockefeller Foundation. Rockefeller Foundation gave $6 million for making such a thing. But how do you do that one? 200 inches is 616.5 feet. You'll have to do that. So they first went to GE, thinking that this big organization, world organization, all the Edison's organization will be able to do. They said they will do that one. They wanted to do that one in silica, but they failed. But within 1 year, and after having spent $600,000, the $6 million is left with still $5.4 billion. Therefore, they left that job. Then they came to Carnegie, which is the mother place for making glasses. They came to Carnegie. Carnegie, there was a physicist who headed the whole thing. By name His name is Carl. He ain't going to multiple he's already there. Well, I don't dig it out. Anyway, the physicist who headed the carving at that time, he said we will do that. First he collected the engineers, calculated the volume, calculated what volume of glass, what weight it would have. Weight of a blank to be made would be 14 tons. 40 tons of glass. Then he said, look, you need a surface. Why do you want to waste so much glass? You need stability and surface. So they made a structure which looked like a honeycomb in ceramic. And then they kept that one, it was kept floating, and the glass was to be poured into that one. They did that. Huge ladders. As you can see here, you can see the huge ladder in South. He exactly is on the road to Saudi. He's out in the Tumbi road with that. You can see the structure over here. Except for the central hole, there was this one, a door. The first one was lifted, but it broke because of several reasons. One was the ceramic itself broke. There were cracks in that one, so they couldn't use it. So it is still there in the museum, carving museum, kept there, the first piece that was done. But they were very encouraged because they could do this one. I'll take just 3-4 minutes. They made the carving, this first one was last. The second one was a successful one. They were able to pour and make it out. By having this structure, they reduced the weight to 20 tons. This 20-ton thing, which is 16.5 feet, had to be carried all the way from carving, which is present in the Midwest, all the way up to Palomar, first to California. So it had to go in train. The train was moved at just 25 miles per hour, only 2 bogies carrying this one and the other people. All of the trains were stopped for that particular period when it was done. But before that one, they discovered that if you kept this disc lengthwise, the height was insufficient at some places for the train to go. If you kept it this way, the width was insufficient. So they had to make all sorts of arrangements in order to move this telescope blank all the way over there. Carrying that one up to Palomar, another 1 mile high. From the seashore, it was 1 mile high. That was another story. They were able to make that one. And that is the connection with the glass. And they were able to get it polished. Polishing itself took away about 5 centimeters of the top of that one, which took several years to complete because it was warriors. In warriors, it was interrupted. There were no people to do that. Finally, they were to get it up 10 years later, after having made this one. It took 10 years for them in order to shave off the top of that one and finish that one to a smoothness which was as good as anything that could be thought of. And eventually, it was erected. In the next one, I showed you another connection. All right, you are talking so much in 20th century that they were able to do this one. This in Syria, mind you, somewhere back in the, must have this Indian connection with your mind. Why did they do this big block, which was 9 tons, which is 11 feet by 6.5 feet by 1.5 foot? This is the one which had been done in Syria, discovered in Haifa, near Haifa. When they dug up, this is what they have found. Why did they make this one? What was the reason they were making this huge slab of glass, geometrically perfect? We don't know. The answer is unclear. Nobody has found it. The last one I want to mention is an Indian connection by name, that's all. Here is the Chandra telescope, which has been put in space. And the space with an elongated orbit, so that most of the times, this particular device, Chandra telescope, will be spending its time well above the one and belt even. It doesn't come there. It is able to peel into the space to be able to get data. It's an X-ray telescope. X-rays have to be concentrated and in order to get the photograph. So what they did was to have 4 concentric tubes which were coming there, so that you have the concentrated reflected back. You can see the reflection pattern over here, how it would schematic of the reflection it would do. But in order to do this one, number one, you will have to have an absolutely smooth surface of this glass. How did they achieve? Oh my God, this particular Python optical systems in Danbury, Connecticut, which got this contract, took about 2 years. Gradually polishing this one. Polishing is not an easy thing at all. So that it is equivalent to you are having the surface of the earth brought to a few little things on the surface, taking away mountains and taking it all and putting it together. That's what it is. And they were able to do this one and put it up in this one. Here, the connection with the glass of the things. Last one, which I would have said in one connection or the other for an audience that I have, namely this new glass, which is a $1 billion business, which has also a beauty of its own. In order to have the glass which covers these buildings cleaned, this was the procedure. Hanging there, a person would go there, have the brush, have the soap, spread on that one, and polish it, and clean that one. So for every floor that was going upwards in this direction, the worker would demand more and more money. And if you were to go to the 80th floor or some such thing, it would be at least about 50 times the kind of money you would charge for the first floor, where the lady herself could possibly clean if she had time. That is what it was. But anyway, this was becoming impossible. Now the glass is made in such a way that the ultraviolet component of the sunlight which falls on that one decomposes the grease completely. And after it has been decomposed, any first shower that comes, in a year at least about 3-4 showers that they would receive, the whole thing will be washed down and it is self-clean. This is achieved by having fine nanoparticles of titanium which are put on the surface even while the sheet is coming out from that bed which I showed you in the case of Alistair Pilkington's glass making machine. Even as it comes out, it is sprayed with the titanium so that it becomes titanium dioxide nanoparticles. Light is not stopped by the nanoparticles. Any light to be scattered, it must be at least a quarter of the wavelength the size of the particle or defect. If you have 20 nanometers or 30 nanometers, where is the 500 nanometers of light that we are talking about? Optical light will simply go through, transparency remains unaffected. While these particles will do their chemical job, that it is going to excite the electrons. Electrons are going to interact with the dust particles, so does the hole which is left behind. Both of them work in consonance in order to destroy either the surface sticking particles which are there on the surface, and the next shower is going to clean them up. That's what it is. And I have put the procedure here, and it is of no consequence. I have not touched upon many, many beautiful things that in these 4.5 decades of my engagement with the science, in the science and art of glass, not the art really, science of glass, has exposed me to. But I believe that it's worthwhile sharing this one in an institution that I grew up as a young person, studying under various teachers of this marvelous college, which has a history of its own. I thank them, and I also put the last one, namely Satyam Shivam Sundaram. When we expect final truths to be understood, that's what it is. Therefore, in art, one realizes really God. That's what it is. The nearest that you can get to an understanding of Almighty would be through that one. And here is a quote from somebody. Since the ancient times, man has tried an almost mystic attention to glass, attributing something magical and supernatural to this transparent material. Magicians of legend would predict the future by gazing into the crystal sphere that is made of glass. Called crystal sphere, but it is glass, you should remember. Chemists and alchemists studied prisms in search of a stone which would turn metal into gold. Alchemy. Magic that was born in flames, and like that fire that gave life to the popular belief of the phoenix, the mythological bird with the golden plumes. Glass is synonymous with beauty. I have taken this title and only morphed it to suit my purpose. And that is what it is. This has been stated by Michael Zampedre in the history of Murano glass. Thanks to all of us.